जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरवरधारी, जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरवरधारी, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन, यमुना तीरावनचारी, यमुना तीरावनचारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी, जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरवरधारी, जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरवरधारी, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन, यमुना तीरावनचारी, यमुना तीरावनचारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। स्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य, बीबीडी फाउंडर आचार्य, सेवियर ऑफ द होल वर्ल्ड जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय। मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी क्षेत्र की जय। गंगा माई यमुना माई की जय। वृंद देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण चंद्र की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय। श्री श्री निताय गौरांग की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवति उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 7th Canto, 9th Chapter, Text number 42. Ko no atra te akhil guru bhagavan prayasa Konvatra te khil guru bhagavan prayasa uttarane asya bhava sambhava lopaheto uttaranesya bhava sambhava lopaheto mudheshu vai mahad anugraha artabandho mudheshu vai mahad anugraha artabandho kim tena te priyajanan anusevatam naha kim tena te priyajanan anusevatam naha konvatra te khila guru bhagavan prayasa uttaranesya bhava sambhava lopaheto mudheshu vai mahadanugraha artabandho kim tena te priyajanan anusevatam naha kaha, what is that? Nu, indeed. Atra, in this matter. Te, of your lordship. Akhila Guru, O supreme spiritual master of the entire creation. Bhagavan, O supreme lord, O personality of Godhead. Prayasaha, endeavor. Uttarane, for the deliverance of these fallen souls. Asya, of this. Bhava sambhava, of creation and maintenance. Lopa, and of annihilation. Heto, of the cause. Mudheshu, unto the foolish persons rotting in this material world. Why, indeed, Mahad Anugraha, compassion by the Supreme, Artha Bandho, O friend of the suffering living entities. Kim, what is the difficulty? Tena, with that. Te, of your lordship. Priyajanan, the dear persons, devotees. Anusevatam, of those always engaged in serving. Naha, like us, who are so engaged. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, original spiritual master of the entire world, what is the difficulty for you, who manage the affairs of the universe, in delivering the fallen souls engaged in your devotional service? You are the friend of all suffering humanity, and for great personalities, it is necessary to show mercy to the foolish. Therefore, I think that you will show your causeless mercy to persons like us who engage in your service. Please repeat. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, original spiritual master of the entire world, what is the difficulty for you, who manage the affairs of the universe, in delivering the fallen souls engaged in your devotional service? You are the friend of all suffering humanity, and for great personalities, it is necessary to show mercy to the foolish. Therefore, I think that you will show your causeless mercy to persons like us who engage in your service. Purport. Here the words Priyajanan Anusevatam Naha indicate that the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is very favorable to devotees who act according to the instructions of his own pure devotee. In other words, one must become the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. If one wants to become the servant of the Lord directly, this is not as fruitful as engaging in the service of the Lord's servant. This is the direction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who shows us the way to become Gopi Bhartuf, Pat Kamalayor Das Dasanu Dasaha. One should not be proud of becoming directly the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, one must seek a pure devotee, a servant of the Lord, and engage oneself in the service of such a servant. The more one becomes a servant of the servant, the more one becomes perfect in devotional service. This is also the injunction of Bhagavad Gita, Evam Parampara Praptam Imam Rajarshayo Viduhu. One can understand the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by the Parampara system. In this regard, Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanevas. Let me serve the lotus feet of the devotees of the Lord, and let me live with devotees. Janame hai ei abhilash. Following Narottam Das Thakur, one should aspire to be servant of the Lord's servant life after life. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also sings, Tumita Thakura Tomara Kukkura Baliya Janaha More. O my Lord, O Vaishnava, please consider me your dog. One must become the dog of a Vaishnava, a pure devotee. For a pure devotee can deliver Krishna without difficulty. Krishna se tomara Krishna dite para. Krishna is the property of his pure devotee, and if he takes shelter of a pure devotee, he can deliver Krishna very easily. Prahlāda wants to engage in the service of a devotee, and therefore he prays to Krishna, My dear Lord, kindly give me the shelter of your very dear devotee, so that I may engage in his service and you may then be pleased. Mad bhakta puja bhyadhika. The Lord says, engaging in the service of my devotee is better than trying to engage in my devotional service. Another significant point in this verse is that by devotional service, Prahlāda Mahārāja does not want to benefit alone. Rather, he prays to the Lord that all of us fallen souls in this material world may, by the grace of the Lord, engage in the service of his servant and thus be delivered. The grace of the Lord is not at all difficult for the Lord to bestow, and thus Prahlāda Mahārāja wants to save the whole world by spreading Krishna consciousness. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Here Prahlāda Mahārāja again we see is using some very important words. In the last class we saw how Prahlāda Mahārāja is presenting himself as a common man. Usually it is a place of suffering for all the materialists. Mainly we are all materialists here in this world. But for a pure devotee, there is no suffering at all. Because the same material energy starts acting like spiritual energy. Example given is just like a policeman. Policeman is a cause of fear for the criminals. But same policeman gives great confidence to the law-abiding citizens. Rather, he is a well-wisher and protector of the citizens. So same energy is one. Srila Prabhupada explains, just like electrical energy can be used for heating and cooling both purposes. So the same material energy which gives pain to the lusty materialistic living entities over here, it is a sort of great pleasure. This entire existence is completely spiritual for a pure devotee of Lord. But a pure devotee does not think like that. I am very advanced and liberated. Purity means understanding that I am most fallen. So thus Prahlāda Mahārāja was conceding in the previous verse. Evam swakarma patitam bhavavaitaranyam. So very important instruction Prahlāda Mahārāja gave. He told bhavavaitaranyam, we have fallen in this world of repeated birth and death, the river of Vaitarani, which is full of pus, mucus, bile, bones and all the nasty stuff. Life after life, we are taking repeated problems of birth, death, old age and disease. And why these problems are coming? Not because you are cruel, my dear Lord. Swakarma patitam, because of my own karma, my own activities I am suffering. Otherwise you are best well-wisher. Here Prahlāda Mahārāja is telling, using the words. Akhilu Guru, you are spiritual master of the entire world. And Mudeshu vai mahad anugraha art bandho. Art bandho means you are friend of the distressed. So Krishna is friend of the distressed people. And that is why it's our duty to take help of the friend who is willing to help us. So Krishna wants to help us, but why we suffer? Swakarma patitam, because of our faulty actions. Just like criminals were being punished, and some standard ways of punishment were throwing them to crocodiles or tigers, or throwing them under the feet of elephants. In this way, they would be trampled and killed. So if a person thinks this elephant is the cause of my misery, crocodile or tiger is the cause of my misery, then that is great misconception. They are simply instruments. Even if elephant becomes very docile, I will not attack this criminal. Tiger becomes very humble, I will not attack this person. Government will send a different tiger to attack. So thus we cannot avoid the miseries of life by removing temporary instruments of distress. So the whole world is trying to remove temporary instruments of distress. It could be the greatest scholar of the world or an ordinary illiterate person. Everyone in this material world is suffering from this gross ignorance, thinking that crocodile, elephant or tiger is the cause of my suffering. No, my own karma. I am suffering because of my karma. So that is what is the solution now? The solution is, Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, Sarv dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja manmana bhavmad bhakto. Completely surrender unto me, always think of me, render devotional service unto me. So when a person completely surrenders unto Krishna, Krishna, please forgive me for my mistakes. I have done so many mistakes. Now I will not exert my independent free will to enjoy this material world. Rather, I am completely dependent upon your advice, your instructions, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic literatures. Then he becomes freed from all such past sinful reactions. And then one should engage in the loving service of Krishna to make one's life perfect. So how to engage in service of Krishna? That has been mentioned here. So Prabhupada also writes in the opening lines of the purport, here the words Priya Janan Anusevitam Naha indicate that the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very favorable to devotees who act according to the instructions of his own pure devotee. Priya Janan means those who are very dear to Krishna. Who are dear to Krishna? Everyone is dear. But especially the devotees are very, very dear to Krishna. Why this partiality? It is not partiality. So Lord does not restrict, you cannot become devotee, only this person can. No. Just like government does not discriminate, you cannot become a bureaucrat or a highly posted officer. No. Anybody can work hard, pass the government exams, and then he can get a good posting in the government service. Similarly, anybody can become a good servant of the Lord, and then God becomes specially favorably inclined to such a servant. But the words which are to be noted, that is why we learn the teachings of the Mahajanas, the most exalted perfect personalities like Prahlāda Mahārāja. Every word has to be read carefully. So he's telling Priyajanan anusevatam, not just sevatam, anusevatam. What is the meaning of anusevatam? Doing seva under the guidance of Priyajanan, the devotees of Lord. So Prahlāda Mahārāja is not telling Priyajanan sevatam, naha. Priyajanan anusevatam. Anusevatam means, Prabhupada is writing, Lord is very favorable to devotees who act according to the instructions of his own pure devotee. What does it mean? Prabhupada tells, in other words, one must become the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord, not engaging directly in the service of the Lord. So thus this is very important point. There was a very nice devotee of Srila Prabhupada when Prabhupada came to Bombay and he was establishing this temple. And many struggles were there. So this devotee was always standing by the side of Prabhupada. And the devotees who were there at that time, they would tell just like, and we do not know how apt the comparison is, we have not seen, but they have witnessed. They tell just like Lord Hanuman we see, he is dedicated to Lord Ramchandra. Similarly, this devotee was very dedicated, like Lord Hanuman is to Ramchandra, he was to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was his life and soul. And who was this devotee? So only 2 devotees of all the disciples Prabhupada has had, Prabhupada told there is no need for you to take initiation. One, as we know, was George Harrison, one of the Beatles. Prabhupada told, you are already Hari's son, there is no need of initiation. So initiation is very important. One should formally get initiated and then follow the rules and regulations very nicely. But in some situations, when spiritual master is extremely pleased, there is no need of any formality. But this another devotee might not be so well known, and his name was Sethi ji. So I'll just read. There is a very nice conversation. Sethi is telling, people are telling, why you are not getting initiation? Then Prabhupada replies very nicely. Once Mr. Sethi told Srila Prabhupada that sometimes devotees would ask him why he did not get initiated. Prabhupada replied, quotes, you are better than initiated. So this is a strange statement. Okay, Prabhupada would have spoken, you are as good as initiated. But Prabhupada is using the words here, you are better than initiated. Now what does it mean? What can be better than initiation? And why this devotee who has not taken initiation is better than an initiated devotee? So please mark the words very carefully. Prabhupada replies, you are better than initiated. An initiated disciple can serve Krishna, worship the deity. So initiation is required. Why? Because one gets authorized to serve Krishna, to enter the altar. Otherwise, Prabhupada tells, unless one is initiated, one's mantra chanting, one's deity worship, all these things are of no use. Because you have not surrendered yourself, not taken the shelter of spiritual master. So our spiritual life becomes valid only when we take, as we had discussed in the last class, one is supposed to become Dvija. Dvija means twice born. Just like the birth is given by father and mother, similarly the Vedas are mother. Mother gives the body. Similarly, the mantras, the procedure, everything is mentioned in the Vedas. It is like body, but body is dead without spirit. Similarly, all these mantras, all these procedures mentioned in Vedas would be dead. Sampradaya vihinaye mantrate nishvala mataha. unless we take shelter of a guru who is coming in bona fide sampradaya disciplic succession. So such spiritual master who comes in bona fide parampara, he becomes father. So when the Vedic instructions are received under the guidance of spiritual master, then spiritual birth, second birth, living entity takes. Then one becomes qualified to understand Vedas, qualified to worship the deity. So thus this initiation is very, very important. That marks initiation means beginning. From there the spiritual life actually starts, because then a person becomes capable of rendering service to Krishna. So as soon as possible, we should try to find a spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master who is pure devotee of Krishna. Fortunately, we have Srila Prabhupada with us, and then take initiation as soon as possible. So this is initiation. An initiated disciple can serve Krishna, worship the deity. But, Prabhupada writes, Prabhupada spoke, you are serving the servants of Krishna, and that is higher. So Prabhupada is telling initiated disciple can go in the altar and he can worship Krishna, he can serve Krishna, but you are serving. The Prabhupada would often tell the devotees, so all of you on Sundays or some other day, you should go to Sethji's house and all of you should do nice kirtan over there in his house. And Sethji told you should feed all the devotees very nicely and take care of them. So in this way, Prabhupada would engage them in the service of the devotees. So thus Prabhupada is writing, an initiated disciple can serve Krishna, worship the deity, but you are serving the servants of Krishna, and that is higher. So what is the basis of this statement? So then Prabhupada quoted the verse, gave reference. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam param. So this is a famous verse from Padma Puran, where Mother Parvati is asking Lord Shiva that so many aradhanas, worships are mentioned in the Vedic literature. That is why people sometimes get confused. Who is Supreme Lord? Whose worship is topmost? If I have to worship, let me worship the most powerful person, the Supreme Lord, origin of everyone. So it is natural curiosity. So Mother Parvati is asking Lord Shiva, which is the best, topmost worship? So Lord Shiva replies, Padma Puran, Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnur aradhanam param. Among all the aradhanas, all the worships, Vishnur aradhana worship of Vishnu, clearly it is mentioned. Param, it is supreme, it is topmost. Lord Shiva has concluded. But then he says, Tasmat parataram devi. Already he has concluded aradhana of Vishnu is best, but there is something better than the best. Best is Vishnu worship, param. Tasmat parataram, higher than that is Tadiyanam Samarchanam. Of all kinds of worship, the worship of Lord Vishnu or Krishna is the topmost, but above even the worship of Lord Vishnu is the rendering of service to Vaishnavas who are related to Vishnu. Tadiyanam means those who are related to Vishnu or those who are devotees of Vishnu, Lord Krishna. So thus, rendering of service to Vaishnavas who are related to Vishnu is even better, is even above the worship of Lord Vishnu. So thus these are some of the very, very important concepts of spiritual life. And then Prabhupada also told, he gave the reason, and Prabhupada added, beside, I have much work for you. There may be things I want you to do that would be awkward for an initiated disciple, but as you are now, you can do them conveniently. So he was a good builder and he was into other businesses also, and thus Prabhupada, so when there were some people who were trying to attack and capture the property, he along with his son, they got some guns and they were patrolling the property entire night. So like this, various kinds of very daring services he would do for Prabhupada. So Prabhupada told, besides, I have much work for you. There may be things I want you to do that would be awkward for an initiated disciple, but as you are now, you can do them conveniently. So that is why we were discussing, this is called surrender. Surrender means whatever we are supposed to do, we should follow spiritual master. We are not here, yes, usually we tell, and that is what we are supposed to do. We are here for making spiritual advancement. But in higher sense, Prabhupada told his disciples, we are not here even for making spiritual advancement. We are here simply for serving the spiritual master. Because a person may think, of course, Sethji was very surrendered. Otherwise, an ordinary person may think that Prabhupada is not giving me initiation so that I can do some work which initiated disciples are not supposed to do. In this way, I am suffering in my spiritual lives. So, and some disciples, they did not understand like this, and they told Prabhupada, Prabhupada, in your service, I am so busy, I am not able to even chant my rounds and do other things. I am not able to attend Mangala Aarti. So yes, Prabhupada's servant, he was not able to attend Mangala Aarti. So once in the morning, he went to attend Mangala Aarti. So usually for us, Prabhupada told, you miss Mangala Aarti only when you die. These are the standards for the disciples of Prabhupada. But for this devotee who was Prabhupada's servant, Prabhupada told, you have no business going in Mangala Aarti. So just see. So we have to understand this very, very crucial point. Going Mangala Aarti is bringing us spiritual advancement because Prabhupada has told us to do so. Anusevatam naha. We have to follow the instructions of pure devotee in serving Krishna. If pure devotee tells you go and attend Mangala Aarti, we must attend Mangala Aarti. If pure devotee tells you don't attend Mangala Aarti, you arrange towel and bucket of water for me, simply arranging towel and bucket of water will give you same or greater spiritual advancement. So just this is the secret. It is not the process. It is the pleasure of the person. This is called Bhakti Yoga. One has to somehow or other please the person, please the Vaishnavas. Processes are instrumental in pleasing the devotees, pleasing the spiritual master. If you stick to the process and ignore the devotees, that is greatest mistake of Bhakti Yoga or spiritual life. So thus the Sethiji was very happy. No problem, Prabhupada. You don't want me to get initiated. I am happy serving the way you want me to serve. So this is very important point. Tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samarchanam. Servant of the Lord. That is why Prabhupada here writes further in the purport. Even wants to become the servant of the Lord directly, this is not as fruitful as engaging in the service of the Lord's servant. This is the direction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who shows us the way to become. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asked about his identity, he tells, Naham varni na cha grahapatir na vaishyo na shudro. I am not brahmachari, not grahastha, not vanprastha, not sannyasi. So this is the first step of bhakti. One should become free from all the designations. We suffer in life only because we are bothered with so many designations. Parents are worried. Children are not listening to them because they think that they are parents, the other soul in the different body, that is son or daughter, and then they are not listening. So they become disturbed. Why? Because the designation is there, I am parent, and children should listen to us. Similarly, elderly people, when they don't get respect, they get disturbed because they have designation. I am grandfather, grandmother of the house, and they are not listening to me. Similarly, I am such and such person, I am a bureaucrat, I am a minister, I am a famous man, and these people are not offering me respect. Person gets disturbed very easily. Why? Because designation is there. I am a senior devotee, I am first initiated disciple, I am second initiated. This person has just started attending class. He is giving me suggestions. How he can give suggestion? How she can tell like this? We get disturbed. I made this offering. This should go to the altar. Why other devotee is doing? I am senior. I should have. So all these comparisons, if they are happening in our life, means we are in designations. Senior, junior, young, old, man, woman, bureaucrat, diplomat, minister. So we have to become freed from all the designations. Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam. This is called bhakti. First of all, become free from all designations. So that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told, I do not have any designation. Who am I? Gopi bhartuf pat kamalayor das dasanu dasaha. I am the servant of maintainer of gopis. Krishna is maintainer of gopis. I am servant of Krishna. Prabhupada tells 100 times downwards. So the more you become servant of servant, the more down you go in this way, the more perfect you become in your spiritual life. Find out servant of servant, and then you go and become servant of the person who has got no other servant. So material world, designation means some designation, or at least I have this position. So these people should serve me now. So we have to become freed from this designation. Thus, servant of servant is the solution. So pleasing Krishna directly is very, very difficult. And Krishna is in no dearth of servants. But if we serve the servants of Krishna, they are very, very merciful. Even though we are faulty, we are having so many other flaws, but the servants of Krishna, they are more merciful than Krishna. So Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita that do not preach to such class of people who are not austere, who are not devoted to me, who are not having good character, do not touch. But Prabhupada tells, devotee of Krishna is more merciful than Krishna. Krishna is telling, do not preach to these kinds of people, but devotee still goes and tries and requests them, please become devotee of Krishna. Typical example is Nityanand Prabhu. So Krishna knows that if my devotees approach such people, unnecessarily they will curse them, they will abuse them, harm them. So thus he tells, do not preach to such people who are not devoted, who are not austere. But still Nityanand Prabhu, he approached Jagai and Madhai because he knows what is heart of Krishna. Actually he wants them back, but so that is why the servants of Krishna, they are more merciful than Krishna. Krishna tells, do not bother about them, but still they are bothered about them. So thus a typical example is that of a young boy, Krishna Das, who went along with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was on South India tour. So on the tour, he got hypnotized or some magic happened on him and he started following the gypsies. Some people who travel here and there, and he started chasing those women, got carried away. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there, and of course, he's Supreme Personality of Godhead. So although those people attacked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by their weapons, all the weapons, they fell apart. Nothing happened because he's Supreme Personality. Everything is happening under his control. So somehow he pulled him back. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again returned to Jagannath Puri, he told this Krishnadas, boy, you sent with me. So he ran after the gypsies. Somehow I brought him back. Now I don't want to bother about him. He is free. I don't want to see him. And then when Krishnadas heard this, he started crying. So spiritual life is, thus it is told, so dangerous. Little inattention and there can be bloodshed. It is like using a razor. Razor if you use, of course now the razors are these twin bladed, which are relatively safe. Otherwise single bladed razors, which people would use, very sharp. Little inattention, there is blood. So through these scriptures, Krishna wants to tell us, if you are little inattentive, even though you could be my associate, there is a chance of falling down. So one should be very, very careful. So somehow he became little inattentive, got attracted by the gypsy women. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought him back. But then Mahaprabhu did not want to see him. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went away, but other devotees, Nityanand Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, they started planning that what to do. This poor fellow committed some mistake. But again, we should try to engage him in some way or other in the service of Lord Chaitanya. So then they discussed among themselves that everyone in Mayapur, in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's home, is anxious for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's return. So somebody, Shachi Mata, mother of Lord Chaitanya, other devotees, they are all anxious. So what to do? So they discussed, let us send Krishnadas to Mayapur to take this news. In this way, he'll be engaged in service of Lord Chaitanya and make advancement in spiritual life. So they discussed with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we need to send a person. Mahaprabhu told, whatever you want, you do. And thus Krishnadas was sent in the service of Krishna. So thus, even the Lord may reject the devotee, the servant of the Lord, they will not reject. They will somehow try to bring the devotee back. Similarly, the case when it happened with Chota Haridas, all the devotees tried. Pratap Rudra Maharaj, Krishna was not, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not willing to meet him. But the devotees were always trying how to bring him to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So thus, this is the secret. Servant of the servant of the servant. So again, there is one more important point here. Sometimes we think servant of servant, evam parampara praptam, as it is mentioned here. So this chain stops at Prabhupada. Yes, Krishna's servant is Brahma, Lord Brahma's servant is Narad Muni, Narad Muni's servant is Ved Vyas, and then servant of servant Prabhupada, I will serve Prabhupada. But no, servant of servant, the down you go, the better you are. I have to find who is serving Prabhupada nicely, his servant. Oh, he is also being served by some other person, let me try to become his servant. Prabhupada tells, the more you go downward, the more you are perfect. You should not think, oh, this person is not perfect, I will not serve him. No, servant of servant of servant. We have to find anybody who is serving a pure devotee of Krishna. I need to engage in his service very nicely. So that is why Prabhupada, he has trained all of us that in our community we call everyone Prabhu. So sometimes when devotees were not able to maintain good relationships, Prabhupada would often remind them, you are calling other person as Prabhu. So Prabhu should not be done just as a matter of lip service. That I am calling Prabhu, but I am thinking I am Prabhu. You should give me respect. No. I am calling everyone Prabhu means everyone is my master. I should see that everyone is pleased with my service. So spiritual life in that sense is easy. I have to simply try to become servant. That everybody who is there who is trying to serve Prabhupada, I simply should try to serve them. So it is simple. But our false ego does not allow. So we have to be careful. Of course, initially we are on that platform. We are servant of servants. But then familiarity breeds contempt. It is a law of this material world. When we become familiar, then we start finding faults in the devotees. And then there is a lack of taste in the spiritual life, lack of interest in the spiritual life, because Krishna can tolerate anything but pride in the heart of the disciple. So why we find faults? Because I think I am better. A person who is ignorant, he cannot find fault in a more learned personality or a higher personality. If I am finding fault in somebody means I am thinking I am better. So this is actually a disease. So yes, faults are there in everyone in this material world. But despite the so-called faults which everyone will have, apart from the pure devotees, we still are supposed to become servant of servants. Even in Vedic culture, it is told that children should be the servant of their parents. Wife should be servant of the husband. The disciple should be servant of the spiritual master. The Shudra should be servant of his employer. So in this way, everyone is taught to become servant of some other person. Employer will be servant of the king. King is servant of Brahmanas. Brahmanas are servant. Brahmanas means Vaishnavas. They are servant of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So everyone, top to bottom, even the kings are also servants. So just like an institution functions very nicely because everyone has got a master, a boss in the company. Similarly, Krishna has instituted this Varnashrama system in this material world where Krishna is the Supreme Lord and everyone has got a reporting or authority one is supposed to serve. So when in normal material civilization, Varnashram Dharma, one is supposed to completely follow one's master nicely. As we have discussed many times, Mandodari was wife of Ravana. But Mandodari is glorified because she followed her dharma very nicely of serving a person, even though he was demoniac. So sometimes we may tell, and many times disciples would ask that, Prabhupada, how can I serve this person? You are telling that your temple authority is representative, the temple president is representative, you follow him. He may have many faults. Prabhupada told that is not for you to judge. If there is any fault, action would be taken by the spiritual master. You simply try to obey. Because you should know he has come there by a spiritual process. Please understand, nothing happens in this world automatically. In material life, if anybody has become our father, mother, son, daughter, neighbor, employer, employee, it is by laws of karma. So when we are following spiritual process, it is directly under control of Krishna that somebody has come to us. We are supposed to guide some people. We are supposed to serve some people. It is not by chance. It is by a spiritual process. So if we are not serving the devotees, that means we are rebelling against the arrangement of Krishna and the spiritual master. Of course, we should not be blind. We should find where is a nice institution which is serving a pure devotee of Krishna or Krishna very, very nicely. And then we should try to surrender. Just like you go to any institution, you take admission into any college, and you follow your professor, whatever syllabus he recommends, you study that nicely. And whatever, whenever he calls a class, we should go and attend. And then we will get degree from the institution. If professor is bad, sometimes they get caught in a scam, they would be removed. Your degree will not be hampered. So similar institution, Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, they provided us this boon of institution. That all of us can get the same benefit what Arjuna had of serving Krishna by becoming servant of servant of servant. So it is very, very simple. It is same. One can get the same benefit of serving Krishna as one can do to serve the servant of the servant of the servant. Rather, becoming servant of servant, Prabhupada tells, is a better position. It is greater perfection. So thus we should try to avoid being familiar. try to become servant of the servant. Prabhupada clearly told here to Sethi ji, you are better than initiated, because initiated person is going to the altar, worshipping Krishna, and you are serving the servant of Krishna. So simply if you try to develop this attitude that everyone will be having faults, that is all right, but let me try to become servant of the servant. So with another very important historical incident, I would close. Prabhupada once, when he was touring India, he came to Surat, and I think it was Surat only, with all his disciples. And one nice gentleman, he hosted all of them in his house. And all the Western disciples were there with Prabhupada. They were hardly even knowing the etiquettes, and they are freestyle and much gravity and sobriety that is expected. It takes time and culture. They were brought up in a different culture, different thing. So they would just not behave very nicely, because when the devotees matured over time, they recollected how we are behaving. So devotees would tell, we were not very well behaved, we were coming and we were eating like anything, and then most of us got dysentery because of this problem. And sometimes the food would get over, the poor person had to cook again, and for his family, then they would take their meal later. In this way, we were not very good guests. But when it was time for us to leave, an ordinary person could have found various faults. These Western people, mlechas, do not know even the basic rules of cleanliness, and they are taking the dress garb of Vaishnavas. But this person, when the devotees were leaving the place, he fell at the feet of Prabhupada and started crying that I am very fallen. Please pardon me for all the offenses that I have committed. I could not serve you nicely. So Prabhupada became very pleased. And then Prabhupada told, this is Vaishnava. So thus, like this, through the words of the purport in the books, through these various instances, it is very, very clear that this is the secret. What is the secret? Mad Anugraha Art Bandho. Krishna is the friend of the distressed people, and to whom he is very, very favorable to provide this help. Priya Janan Anusevatam Naha, who are servant of the devotees. So let us try to become servant. Let us try to fulfill their wishes. And what is the wishes? What is the wish of the servants of the servant? No other wish. That Prabhupada writes at the end, second paragraph of the purport. Prahlāda Mahārāja does not want to benefit alone. Rather, he prays to the Lord that all of us fallen souls in the material world may, by the grace of the Lord, engage in the service of his servant and thus be delivered. The grace of the Lord is not at all difficult for the Lord to bestow, and thus Prahlāda Mahārāja wants to save the whole world by spreading Krishna consciousness. So thus, in one sense, serving the servants means spreading Krishna consciousness under their direction. This is the sum and substance of this verse. So with this we will end. Granthra Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.